in San Francisco before the pandemic.
Right.
And the concern is that when you are too lenient on the homeless folks, you just allow them to camp wherever they want, shit wherever they want. They just do it. And if you don't put up rules, if you try to be progressive and open-minded, it's like they have new words for them, like the unhoused and shit like that. And when you do that, you open up the door for more of them to migrate there, because there was a video that somebody put up of them interviewing these homeless guys and like, why do you like San Francisco? And they said, first of all, they give us food, they give us money, they let us, they're really loose, they let us camp wherever we want. And these guys had moved to San Francisco to be homeless, which is a problem.
But see, just like you said, that problem is tied up with the fact that a lot of people are struggling financially because of COVID. So it's it feels like trying to solve the homelessness problem is in direct tension with trying to take care of people who are struggling.
Well, I think it shows that there's a problem with people losing a place to live, and that the solution is not necessarily let them camp out anywhere they want. I think there should be some sort of a step that the government takes, whether it's to develop housing or to build something for them. But when you let them just camp and shit everywhere, then you ruin all the other spaces.
Right.
Like, the best way to keep the city intact and to try to help these people is to implement some sort of a program where you provide housing for them. Letting them just camp on the street, that's chaos. Like, now you've fucked up everything.
So this particular state government just seems incompetent at solving this particular problem, but it also seems to be not very good at solving some other problems, right? In terms of encouraging businesses to stay there.
California.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, it's bad. It's overregulated. It's a crazy regulated state, and it's also very high taxes. And there's a lot of people that are recognizing that there's other places that don't have any state taxes. Like, why would I stay in a place that's they're telling you can't work. They're closing down businesses. Gavin Newsom today there's a lawsuit got filed by more than 50 San Francisco Bay Area restaurants and bars, trying to say, like, why are we closed? Like, this doesn't make any sense. You can't just keep doing this forever. And some places are starting to wake up. My hope is that a lot of this is political, as gross as that sounds, and that now that Biden and Harris are in, that they'll open things back up. And the mayor of Chicago has said this. The mayor of New York has said we have to open things back up. And I'm hoping.
Oh, interesting.
I'm hoping that they take this chance.
It could go the other way as well, though, right? It's the other way is now that there is a Democrat in office, that they could see that as a path to pass further regulations and push this closed economy, go into lockdown further.
Why would they do that, though?
I always thought it was a terrible idea. The long-term consequences on the economy are going to be potentially orders of magnitude worse on the fabric of our society. So I don't know why they would do that. The Michael Malice, so the devil on my shoulder.
Okay, right? Michael's the devil.
Wearing a white suit, or the devil wears a suit and tie, right?
Yeah.
That's a badass. I've been listening to that over
How
and over.
good is that guy?
Yeah, that guy's amazing.
Coulter Wall.
And your story, sorry, in a small tangent, your story that he hasn't been on your podcast because
he's working on a ranch. Like, as a fucking rancher.
This guy's legit.
Like, we reached out to them. He's like, well, he's working on the ranch right now.
Yeah.
Like, what is he doing on that ranch? He's a fucking cowboy, like a legit cowboy.
Like, there's literally no more badass thing to do than turn down Joe Rogan Experience appearance.
Massive promotion. He's like, I'd rather just rope steers.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Michael Malice devil argument is that, that's one way for the government to gain more control over the populace, is to fearmonger, say that there's a big problem, and that magnify the sort of the narrative around how big that problem is. And unfortunately, from my perspective, as a scientist, to use scientists to say, look, scientists are saying there's a huge problem, sort of use science as a tool of fear mongering, and then gain further and further control of the populace. That's the devil on the shoulder.
You have to have an incentive to do that. Like, why would they want that kind of control while also devastating the economy? They need the economy because they need tax revenue. If they're not getting tax revenue, how are they going to feed the military-industrial complex? How are they going to feed all their businesses? How are they going to feed the pharmaceutical industry? Like, all these people that finance their campaigns and all these banks that pay for them to speak after they get out of office, where's the money coming from now if there's no economy? I think that's like one of them doom and gloom QAnon type deals where people are thinking like they want to kill half the population and, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Everything you said, incentive-wise, it makes sense.
Catch new episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience for free only on Spotify. Watch back catalog JRE videos on Spotify, including clips. Easily, seamlessly switch between video and audio experience. On Spotify, you can listen to the JRE in the background while using other apps and can download episodes to
With Fundrise, the same kind of real estate investments that have powered the world's strongest portfolios.
So let's just jump right into it. I want to talk about the stock market for 2021, which sectors I think are going to do really well, some stocks that I think you might want to take a look at and maybe put your money into, and the hyperinflation scenario that people are talking about, as well as where we're at and where I think we're going this year. But what's funny about making these stock market prediction videos that I've learned is that if you make enough of them, eventually you'll be right. So let's talk about it, because I'm way overdue for one of these prediction videos myself. I'm just kidding. Specifically though, we have a new president, and that means several things. The first thing it means is that my video about how to invest under Joe Biden as president aged really well despite what some of the comments said. And the second thing it means is that there's going to be some new changes. But my favorite thing about the whole inauguration process was the memes, or as my parents like to call them, memes. But if you remember the Lady Gaga one, where she wore the Mockingjay pin the size of a dinner plate, what's interesting wasn't the size of the pin, but apparently the theory behind why she wore it. And it was symbolism for the Hunger Games, which apparently we're about to get in 2021, but in real life. Because if you remember, in the books, it was the games that were punishment against the districts for attacking the Capitol. And what happened on January 6th? Huh? Memes. But if you remember the Lady Gaga one, where she wore the Mockingjay pin the size of a dinner plate, what's interesting wasn't the size of the pin, but apparently the theory behind why she wore it. And it was symbolism for the Hunger Games, which apparently we're about to get in 2021, but in real life. Because if you remember, in the books, it was the games that were punishment against the districts for attacking the Capitol. And what happened on January 6th? Huh? That means Lady Gaga's part of the Illuminati because triangles. But the best meme of all, and my favorite one, was definitely the Bernie Sanders one, because I think he's my spirit animal. Every time I go to a party, that is what I look like, because I make YouTube videos for a living and I have no friends in real life. But anyway, enough with the jokes, let's get into the substance. I promise this next part is gonna be really good. All right, so let's talk about the best stocks. These are my favorite, these Pikachu ones right here, but that's just me. I'm just kidding. Best stocks. Now, YouTube doesn't like for me to say this word out loud, so I have to mime it for you. So follow along if you can. Think. That was Water Vapor Kids, never smoke, but for those reasons and more, those stocks are gonna do really well. Speaking of stocks, these are actually my favorite. How did that happen? Let's begin. Hi, my name is Andre Jack. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the scene. But then get this, with the multi% and just I don't even know anymore. But in 2020, the stock market dropped by roughly 34% in just a single month. And then of course our government reacted very quickly with the multi-trillion-dollar CARES Act. But that made it one of the worst bear markets and one of the quickest bear markets that we had ever seen. But then get this, we printed something like a fourth of the entire monetary supply in just 1 year. Think about that. We went from $15,337 billion in M2 money at the beginning of January to $19,071 billion at the end of December. There is now more money in the system competing for the same amount of finite stuff. So if you actually started investing in March when the dip happened, then you would have been up regardless of what you put your money into, whether that was cryptocurrency or real estate or specifically the stock market, where you would have been up 60%. And we actually finished 2020 with the S&P 500 up at around 18.29%, which is pretty incredible considering how bad the collapse was, which also shows you just how powerful central banks and Papa Powell can be. But now in 2021, President Joe Biden wants another $1.9 trillion stimulus deal, which means more than likely we will see more stimulus enter the market, and even if it isn't that specific final number, we can almost count on it. But that is why, for that reason and many more, people say to always buy the dip whenever there's an opportunity and to continuously invest into the market by dollar cost averaging consistently every single month, which is exactly what I plan to do, and let me show you how I'm gonna do that. I've recently switched over to the DRIP, the dividend reinvestment plan. So normally when I get paid dividends from my stock portfolio, I wait until I have a sizable amount of cash to then buy a stock that I think is undervalued at the time. The problem with doing that, though, is that sometimes the stocks that I'm looking at, they go over my price target, and so I never buy them because they get away from me, and so I'm left holding a lot of cash. This is literally what happened to me from my last video when I said I would buy Apple at $128 at the market open, and I never did because the stock got away from me. Now, that's not totally related, but still, I want to make sure that I put my cash and my money to work automatically. Now, I use Robinhood for my main dividend portfolio, but you could use whatever you'd like. If you do use Robinhood, make sure to go get that free stock using the link down below and get those 4 free stocks with Webull. They are still giving them away, but only when you deposit $100 using that link down below. Having said that, you can actually turn on the drip option with Robinhood pretty easily. Just go to the bottom right hand side of the screen and click the little person icon. When you do that, scroll down to the dividend reinvestment plan, and then you can just turn on the dividend reinvestment button, and now you can just go through each and every stock and then just turn it back on. So that's all it is, and that's how easy it is to do. Now, every time I get paid that cash, it's gonna automatically go inside each and every one of those companies. I think there are several reasons why the stock market is gonna go down this year, and several reasons why I think it's gonna take off. So let me show you why I think it's really gonna do well. And the first reason is share buybacks, which I'm sure you've heard of before, but it's basically when a company takes its money and instead of creating new products with it, it will then use it to buy back more of its own stocks, decreasing the amount of outstanding shares in the market. And the official reason why companies do this is, according to what they tell us, is because they believe they are undervalued in relation to their future earnings, and it's a good use of their money. But the unofficial reason why they do this is because they want to get new investors excited and pumped so they could plow more of their money into the stock market to increase the stock prices, which also allows their senior executives to retire in style. But you didn't hear it from me, and if I get kidnapped and disappear, show people this video. Now, if you remember during the pandemic, though, the excited and pumped so they. But the unofficial reason why they do this is because they want to get new investors excited and pumped so they could plow more of their money into the stock market to increase the stock prices, which also allows their senior executives to retire in style. But you didn't hear it from me, and if I get kidnapped and disappear, show people this video. Now, if you remember during the pandemic, though, the companies that did this and struggled were very heavily criticized when they asked the government for a bailout. Because then it's like that one friend who just buys a lot of crap they don't need, but then always complains about being broke. This is the stock market equivalent of that. And if you don't have that one friend, then it's probably you. So anyway, share buybacks dropped by roughly 41% during the pandemic as the world kind of grinded to a halt. But now, as we get further away from the pandemic, these share buyback programs are slowly starting to make their way around. And we can already see that in 2020 with companies like Apple, T-Mobile, Google, Microsoft, Regen Pharmaceuticals, Oracle, Berkshire Hathaway, and most recently even Netflix is considering it. So all of this is going to have the effect of boosting the stock market. And here's another reason why I think we'll do really well this year. Stock splits. And I'm sure you've heard of these before because I've explained them like 1,000 times, so watch close and watch the magic because stock splits are about to become the new share buyback program for 2021. Instead of companies plowing more of their money into buying back more of their own shares, instead, or rather not instead, but in addition to, we're gonna see more of these stock splits, which remember, at the end of the day, don't really do anything. Whether that's a double, triple, quadruple, or whatever a 5-time stock split just like Tesla did or Apple did, 4-for-1 in August, it doesn't really do anything other than issue more shares at a fraction of the price. And I do think we'll see more of these tech companies do that this year as their stock prices continue to increase. This is companies like Google, Netflix, Amazon, whose stock price is over $3,300, which for most people, it looks very expensive. And even though we know that we can buy fractional shares of this and spend as little as $1 to start investing in it, most people don't know that and they think they're buying at the very top. So anyway, to fight that, companies create more of this liquidity by pushing out more of their shares into the market, making it easier and quicker for people to buy and sell the stocks without substantially affecting the stock price. But the biggest reason companies do this is because they want to make it more enticing for newer investors and make it seem like the stock is cheaper when it's actually not. So the stage has been set, and I think what's going to happen is something I like to refer to as the front runner effect to take place. And I do think this will take us potentially to beyond the record highs of today. And this is because everyone understands that if they don't invest, they will miss out today thanks to the policies of tomorrow. So people are making decisions now based on what they predict the future will obviously be. Regardless if it happens or not, people think it's going to be more inflation. Check this out. Well, that was obviously not played in reverse, but here's what's interesting. 78% of all the money that is in the US was actually created in just the last 10 years, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. So now that we know the government is very open to printing more money, we're gonna get probably more stimulus checks that people will YOLO into SPY, the stock market is positioned to do really well, but it's not a guarantee. Obviously, some parts of the economy are going to grow quicker than others. We saw that in 2020 with tech stocks and EV, Tesla growing more than 1,000%, which makes even Bitcoin jealous. Thanks a lot, Janet Yellen. That's very Karen of you. But unfortunately for me, my dividend stocks, which is what I really ultimately love to invest in, didn't do anywhere near as well. Let me show you.
Free?
Noble, or Nobel, however you want to pronounce it, the golden standard of some of the best dividend-paying companies in the world. It tracks companies that have paid their dividends and increased them for 25 years or more, has only grown by 8% in 2020. That's in comparison to the S&P 500's 18% during the same time frame, proving yet again that by trying to pick specific stocks or a subset of stocks rather than just investing into the whole market is probably a loser's game. So I don't even know why you were subscribed to my Patreon unless you really like the spreadsheet that automatically tracks your investments. But I haven't given up on dividend investing yet. And that's because if the stock market goes sideways or it goes down, that's when dividend investing really begins to shine. And that's because when growth stocks go up and down in value, they just increase and decrease on paper, whereas the dividend stocks actually pay us an interest that we then reinvest back into the portfolio via the drip method I described earlier in the video. But as long as the market continues to climb higher, the dividend stocks will probably not do as well as the general market. But here are some reasons why I think my dividend stocks in my portfolio are going to do a little bit better this year. Under President Joe Biden, we could see the return of cyclical stocks. Not related to unicycles, but cyclical stocks are where I keep roughly 6.5% of my money in that specific sector, and cyclical stocks are basically companies that rotate in and out of favor depending on what the economy is doing. So if the economy is booming and it's doing well, then those companies do well, and if it's not, then I want to hurt myself. These are stocks like VFC, Polaris, Williams-Sonoma, Target, basically all the stores where people use their discretionary income when they actually have a job. And also restaurant stocks are going to make a comeback assuming the economy recovers. Man, we need more lights. Another sector that's going to do really well is energy. And I know a lot of people have talked about green energy because of the Paris Climate Accord and because of the Green New Deal, but no one's really been talking about purple energy, which is really where it's at. This is the card that Graham Stephan gave me from the Logan Paul unboxing, but what he doesn't know is that I also have his Nidoran and the creme de la creme, the Magikarp that he got as well, which is so cool because now I have more cards from that pack than he does. Frugality done right. But jokes aside, I am pretty bullish on oil because I do think that as the economy recovers and as we have more productivity, we will see a bigger demand for oil, which should in theory increase the stock prices as well. Another sector that could do really well this year is Memabis cannabis, eucalyptus majoris, you know what it is, and the financial sector with stocks like Square, PayPal, Shopify that have really led the fintech revolution, and banks that are trying to compete like Goldman Sachs and potentially JP Morgan as well. But the one that I'm the most excited about, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud.
Meet Chris and Mark. They've both heard of Bitcoin and Ethereum. But while Chris is using eToro to trade top cryptocurrencies, Mark keeps getting cold feet.
It is Coinbase's IPO, which I'm probably going to buy, which is kind of crazy because I never chase growth stocks, nor do I chase IPOs, but this one in particular, crazy loud. It is Coinbase's IPO, which I'm probably going to buy, which is kind of crazy because I never chase growth stocks, nor do I chase IPOs, but this one in particular I'm really, really bullish about. Think about it like this. Instead of investing in these cryptocurrencies individually, because who knows which one is going to come out on top, I use these companies, these brokerage companies for these cryptos as a proxy for an ETF because it's the best we have, and because we don't really care about who's going to win. If this is where we have to buy these cryptos from, then guess who wins? The investors of these brokerages. And all of this, of course, depends on the regulation and what President Joe Biden decides to do with corporate tax rates. And yes, if he increases them, then we'll see a pullback, which is when you should get ready to buy the dip. But overall, I do see the market going up. At the end of the day, we're in a very interesting scenario where we can create arguments for both on why the stock market could go up this year and why it could go down. But on the whole, I believe that we will finish positively this year. I could eat my words at the end of the year, but so far things look okay, and it doesn't look like we can get another market crash like we did in 2020. But unfortunately, we didn't get a divided Congress like I wanted to, which is when the stock market typically performs the best. So you can't win them all. But you can win 4 free stocks by depositing $100 with Webull using the link below. I'm so shameless, I'm sorry. So instead, keep investing and always remember that Warren Buffett quote to be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. Because when it comes to investing and pretty much life in general, anytime you expect something to go one way, it almost never does, and it goes the complete opposite. We saw that in 2020 with the stock market crash. When it crashed, I think I'll be all right. That was fine. It's fine. Everything's all right. But yeah, when the market crashed, everybody thought it was going to be the end of the world. But instead, we got the biggest comeback in 2020 since JoJo. Yeah, she was awesome. I listened to her songs. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. Go get those free stocks. Get $250 worth of free Bitcoin with BlockFi using this code down below. Love you. Thank you so much. I'll see you back here on Monday and Friday.
Noel, Noel, the angel. She break your heart, she hold it down, and she played a part. Isn't getting real close. You was rolling the dice, but you landed on no. We ain't doing this twice, baby. You should know. be nice. Say I'm coming back home.
For my meal kit delivery, I chose the vegetarian box, and the meals that I received were the salsa verde enchiladas, harissa sweet potato pockets, and the
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here as we near the end of another week together. And on this Friday night, no break from the news. We begin here with the alarming headline on the coronavirus today. Britain's Prime Minister said today that they believe that this UK variant that we're now seeing here in the U.S. in at least 21 states tonight, that it's not only much more contagious, that it's also more deadly. Scientists are cautioning tonight that they still need to study this longer, but they do acknowledge already it does spread and easily. Tonight, the U.S. now reporting more than 413,000 American lives lost to the virus. New York State, for one, will run out of vaccine by the end of today. Governor Andrew Cuomo saying tonight that a new shipment is on the way, but it underscores the need to ramp up vaccine production. So many states say they need supply. The long lines, these images from a mega vaccination site at Six Flags Magic Mountain, that's in Southern California. Tonight, Johnson & Johnson saying it's getting closer to requesting emergency use authorization for its one-shot vaccine. That would be the third vaccine for the American people. Of course, Pfizer and Moderna already. President Biden on the pandemic again tonight saying, quote, there's nothing we can do to change the trajectory of this pandemic in the next several months, but that we have to fight it together. And tonight, with concerns over the vaccine supply, what Dr. Anthony Fauci is now saying about the timing of that second dose, the window of time, how much time can pass before you have to get that second shot. ABC's Whit Johnson leading us off again tonight.
Tonight, a new warning that the highly contagious UK variant, which is already threatening the U.S., could also be more deadly.
There is some evidence that the new variant, the variant that was first identified in London and the southeast, may be associated with a higher degree of mortality.
That UK variant now in 21 states, believed to be up to 50% more contagious, and British health officials citing early evidence suggesting it may be up to 30% deadlier. But they're still investigating, and vaccines appear to work against it.
Even if the virus ended up not being any more deadly, the fact that it is more contagious means it's going to end up infecting a lot more people. It's going to cause more hospitalizations and a lot more deaths.
With the dwindling vaccine supply, the CDC now telling people there is some flexibility when a second dose can't be given on time.
Sometimes the situation is stressed where it's very difficult to be exactly on time. So we're saying you could probably do it 6 weeks later, namely 2 additional weeks. Quite frankly, immunologically, I don't think that's going to make a big difference.
And tonight, the CDC also saying in exceptional situations where the same brand of vaccine isn't available for a second dose, it's better to switch brands than skip that second dose. Many already worried they won't be able to get one, like healthcare worker Nikema Taylor.
I'm feeling so much frustration and so much anxiety about this. I'm trying to go online and to set my appointment for the second vaccine, and there's nothing available.
In New York City, the mayor asking the federal government for permission to use second doses as first doses.
It's going faster and faster. There's just no supply to keep up with it.
The state burning through 97% of its first doses, expected to run out by the end of the day. More is on the way, but the shortage forcing 15 vaccination hubs to close for now.
Did get the COVID, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
In New Jersey, long lines before daybreak. And in California, drivers at Dodger Stadium waiting up to 5 hours.
There was a 3 to 4 hour wait, so we came back this morning.
At this pace of the rollout, the mayor says vaccinating all of LA County would take until June 2022.
These are just stunning images, and they say they waited 4 or 5 hours and then came back the next day. Let's get right back to Whit Johnson on this again tonight. And Whit, we already knew that the UK variant was more contagious, now potentially more deadly. But with it spreading so quickly, and we knew this, scientists in the last 24 hours are now doubling down on masks in this country, making sure that the mask you're wearing is effective, even suggesting an extra layer in some cases.
David, more and more health experts are now suggesting wearing 2 masks in high-risk situations like when you can't avoid a crowd or you're in close proximity with other people. The best mask is still the N95, but those are generally reserved for healthcare workers, so they are recommending alternatives that you can find on online retailers. The bottom line, David, the more layers, the better.
That's right. Double up with the layers. That only helps. With Johnson leading us off on a Friday night with thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, 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 if you'd like to get more videos,